Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Lead You to Psychology. In our previous session, we had covered the steps in conducting scientific research, and today we're going to discuss the nature of psychological data. In case you have missed our previous session, please click on the link given above. Let us begin. Now, psychologists collect a variety of information from different sources employing diverse methods. The information also called data, or in a singular form it is called datum, D-A-T-U-M. This is related to the individual's covert or overt behavior, their subjective experiences and mental processes. Data form an important input in psychological inquiry. They in fact approximate the reality to some extent and provide an opportunity to verify or falsify our ideas, hunches, notion, etc. It should be understood that data are not independent entities. They are located in a context and are tied to the methods and theories that govern the process of data collection. In other words, data are not independent of the physical or social context, the persons involved, and the time when the behavior it occurs. We behave differently when alone than in group, or at home and in office. Now, we may hesitate to talk in front of our parents and teachers, but not when we are with our friends. Now, we may have also noticed that not all people behave in exactly the same manner in the same situation. The method of collection data, survey, interview, experiment, etc. used and the characteristics of response such as individual or group, young or old, male or female, rural or urban, etc. also influence the nature and quality of data. It is possible that when you interview a student, she or he may report behaving in a particular manner in a given situation. But when you go for actual observation, you may find just the opposite of what she or he had reported. Now, another important feature of data is that it does not in itself speak about reality. Inferences have to be made from the data. A researcher attaches meaning to the data by placing it in its proper context. In psychology, different types of data or information are collected. Some of these types are demographic information, physical information, physiological data, or psychological information. Let's talk about demographic information. Now, this information generally includes the personal information like age, name, gender, birth order, number of siblings, education, occupation, marital status, number of children, locality of residence, caste, religion, parental education, occupation, family, income, etc. Physical information. This category includes information about ecological condition, hilly, desert, forest, or the mode of economy, housing condition, size of rooms, facilities available at home, in the neighborhood, in the school, mode of transportation, etc. Third comes the physiological data. In some studies, physiological and psychological data are collected about height, weight, heart rate, level of fatigue, galvanic skin resistance, that is your GSR, electrical activity of the brain measured by EEG, oxygen, blood oxygen level, reaction time, duration of sleep, blood pressure, pattern of dream, amount of salivation, running and jumping rates in case of animal studies, etc. are collected. Now comes the psychological information. Psychological information collected may relate to such areas as intelligence, personality, interest, values, creativity, emotions, motivation, psychological disorder, illusions, delusion, hallucination, perceptual judgment, thought process, consciousness, subjective experiences, etc. Now, these information could be from the point of view of measurement somewhat crude, like in the form of categories such as high or low, yes or no, ranks which provide ordinal data with first, second, third, fourth, etc. or scores like 10, 12, 15, 18, 20, etc. on scales. We also obtain verbal reports, observation records, personal diaries, field notes, archival data, etc. Now, such type of information is analyzed separately using qualitative methods. Now, let's talk about some important methods in psychology. In our previous session, we have learned about wide variety of data that we collect in psychological studies. All these variety of data cannot be collected through a single method of inquiry. Psychologists use a variety of methods like observation, experimental, correlational, survey, psychological testing, and case study to collect data. The aim here is to guide you to select the methods which may be appropriate for different research purposes. For example, one can observe the behavior of spectator watching a football game. We may conduct an experiment to see if children taking an examination do better in the classroom in which they have studied the subject or in the examination hall, like the cause-effect relationship. We can correlate intelligence with, say, self-esteem for prediction purposes. We can survey students' attitude towards privatization of education. We can use psychological tests to find out individual differences. We can also conduct case study on the development of language in a child. Now, let us talk about the main characteristics of these methods. Let's talk about observational method first. Now, observation is a very powerful tool of psychological inquiry. It is an effective method of describing behavior. In our daily life, we remain busy with observing numerous things throughout the day. Many times, we do not take notice of what we are seeing or what we have seen. We see, but we do not observe. We remain aware of only a few things that we see daily. Now, have you experienced such a thing? We may also have experienced that if we carefully observe a person or event for some time, we may come to know many interesting things about the person or the event. A scientific observation differs from day-to-day observation in many respects. These are selection, recording, analyzing data. Let's talk about selection. Psychologists do not observe all the behavior that they encounter. Rather, they select a particular behavior for the observation. For example, we may be interested in knowing how children studying in class 12 spend their time in school. Two things are possible at this stage. As a researcher, we might think that we have a fair good idea about what happens in school. We might prepare a list of activities and go to the school with a view of finding out their occurrences. Alternatively, we might think that we do not know what happens in the school, and by our observation, we would like to discover it. Next comes the recording. Now, while observing, a researcher records a selected behavior using different means such as marking tallies for the already identified behavior whenever they occur, taking notes describing each activity in greater details using shorthand or symbols or photographs or video recording, etc. Next comes the analysis of data. Now, after the observation have made, psychologists analyze whatever they have recorded with a view of deriving some meaning out of it. Now, it is important to know that making good observation is a skill. A good observer knows what he or she is looking for, whom she or he wants to observe, when and where the observation needs to be made, in what form the observation will be recorded, and what methods will be used to analyze the observed behavior. Now let us quickly talk about the type of observation. Observation can be of following types: naturalistic versus control observation and non-participant versus participant observation. Naturalistic versus control observation is, now when observation are done in a natural or real life setting, it is called naturalistic observation. Now, in case of school where observation was made, that was a natural observation, naturalistic observation. In this case, the observer makes no effort to control or manipulate the situation for making an observation. This type of observation is conducted in hospitals, homes, schools, daycare centers, etc. However, many a times we might need to control certain factors that determine behavior, as they are not the focus of our study. Now, for this reason, many of the studies in psychology are conducted in the laboratory. Now, this type of observation is called controlled laboratory observation, actually is obtained in laboratory experiments. Next come the non-participant versus participant observation. As the word itself says, observation can be done in two ways. One, you may decide to observe the person or even from a distance. Two, the observer may become a part of the group being observed. In the first case, a person being observed may not be aware that he or she is being observed. For example, you want to observe the pattern of interaction between teachers and students in a particular class. There are many ways of achieving this goal. We can install a video camera to record the classroom activities, which we may see later and analyze. Alternatively, we may decide to sit in a corner of the classroom without interfering or participating in their everyday activities. This type of observation is called non-participant observation. The danger in this type of setup is that the very fact that someone, an outsider, is sitting and observing may bring a change in behavior of students and the teacher. In participant observation, the observer becomes a part of the school or the group of people being observed. In participant observation, the observer takes some time to establish a rapport with the group so that they start accepting her or him as one of the group members. However, the degree of involvement of the observer with the group being observed would vary depending upon the focus of the study. The advantage of the observation method is that it enables the researcher to study people and their behavior in a naturalistic situation as it occurs. However, the observation method is labor-intensive, time-consuming, and is susceptible to the observer's bias. Our observation is influenced by our values and beliefs about the person or the event. Now, we may be familiar with the popular saying, we see things as we are and not as things are. Because of our biases, we may interpret things in a different way than what the participants may actually mean. Therefore, the observer should record the behavior as it happens and should not interpret the behavior at the time of observation itself. That's it for this lecture. So thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe our channel. We wish you a happy learning. Let us discover this amazing field of psychology together. Thank you. See you soon.